Okay, so I just got out of Godzilla Cross Kong, The New Empire, and here's my quick reaction to the film. I think this is the best MonsterVerse film to happen yet. The characters and the humor are much better in here than some of the other attempts in this latest franchise. The characters had some good development, there were some good arcs, there were some stories I actually liked. I was rooting for the characters throughout this movie. There were some funny moments, there was some good dynamic with all of them. The humor, unlike the other films in this universe, I actually chuckled a few times in the first act. The humor is not great by any means, but I got a few chuckles every now and then in this movie. So we have that podcast guy back from the other movie, which I really dug him, and I think his character is done much more serviceable in here than he was in Godzilla versus Kong, I believe it was. But where this film lacks, to me at least, which this is going to be very controversial here, but is the action sequences in this film. I think this film is all action, no story. The story is very soft in this movie, and I felt like each segment of this film, going from the second act and onwards, it just felt like a variety of boss fights. Like, Kang goes to this enchanted area, he sees a threat that's much bigger than him and more tormenting. And he defeats him. He goes into a new area. There's another threat waiting there for Kong, and it just felt like the film was a variety of boss fights. It felt more like a video game than an actual cohesive story here. And all the action sequences, they're very repetitive. They happen so often in this movie, and I felt like, to me, that there was way too much action in this movie. Which, it's great to see, a lot of Kong, a lot of Godzilla on screen, but, I felt like when it comes to storytelling, that there's a fine line between how much action you show and how little action you show. And I think there's a very big difference there, and I think this film really jumped the mark on that. But the one thing that did save this movie for me was the characters. And for most audience members, we aren't there for the characters, and I felt like this film really kind of had a statement to say. I felt like the characters really added a lot of depth to the story here, and so that was something that I really dug here. The action, I do want to touch more on that topic here, because I feel like that this is such a big segment of the movie. So I definitely do want to elaborate more on what I've already said about the action in here. The action, some of it did not look the best. Like, there is a lot of visuals, there is a lot of CGI being displayed on screen here, and I feel like as a result of that, since there's so much happening, every action scene is at a 10 in here, and so they're really showing as much, as many explosions and as many atomic breaths and as much everything on the screen in this movie. And so I felt at some points throughout the film that it did look messy. The third act, did leave me with a smile to kind of see this whole universe kind of, wrap up the way it did, and to see it kind of, go back to some familiar territory, I think in that regard, while this movie probably has the most and entertaining action, it's not the most exciting action in this franchise at all. So, I think that's the biggest complaint I have, for this movie, is it just came across as very repetitive. The action wasn't very engaging, since it was happening like about 90% of this movie is action sequences, and about 10% of it is story. So, yeah. But, at the end of the day, did I have a good time with Godzilla Cross Kong? Like, yeah. Is this a movie I'm going to go back and watch a second time? Probably not. Am I going to watch it in the future? Maybe, but I'm not going to rush out and see this movie. I just don't think these MonsterVerse movies are really for me. King of the Monsters was a big letdown. Godzilla vs. Kong, at least when I saw it, it's been a few years, but when I saw it, I kind of enjoyed it. But, Godzilla 2014, that one really impressed me there. That one really impressed me. So, this whole universe has really been a mixed bag for me here. Kong Skull Island, I did forget about that one. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed that one, more than I thought I would. But yeah, I wouldn't really call the film a disappointment per se, but I also wouldn't call it a good film. So this is a film that's kind of in the middle for me. So yeah, anyways, they're my thoughts on Godzilla Cross Kong. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this movie.